suburbs. As he told the BBC on July 2nd, 2015, years later, the people of this very city would work to prevent him from a radical life decision: joining ISIS. The Guardian on February 23rd, 2015 explains that Denmark, which has produced more fighters per head of population than any Western country except for Belgium, has developed an innovative program known as the House model to not only prevent young jihadis from traveling to join ISIS, but also to rehabilitate former fighters back into society. According to a study by the International Center for Radicalization and Political Violence on January 26, 2015, 30 men left Denmark to join ISIS in 2013. However, since the implementation of the House model, that number has decreased to 1. Other countries are taking note, as the Borgen Project on July 20th, 2015 explains other Scandinavian countries have since adopted the model, and President Obama invited the mayor of our house to share insight into his city's innovative approach to fighting terrorism. Though the model is largely praised, The Guardian on November 12, 2014 asserts that conservative parties in Denmark have criticized the program as soft, naive, short-sighted, and ultimately very dangerous. Considering the recent bombings in Beirut and Baghdad, and the involvement of French and Belgian recruits in the Paris attacks, the House model could prove to be instrumental in minimizing ISIS's foreign recruitment effort. To better understand this program, we will first understand how it attempts to prevent the radicalization of youth. Next, look how it rehabilitates former fighters, before finally deriving implications. Because, as Rachel Shabi, a Middle Eastern journalist and author, told The Independent on July 20th, 2015, we are going to have to engage with the unpalatable truth that these people will come home and use them as a force for good. In his teens, Ahmed's father took him on a religious pilgrimage to Mecca. Upon his return, he traded in his jeans and shirts for traditional Islamic apparel. After acting out in school, Ahmed's principal suggested him for the program with local authorities so he could get help. To better understand how the program attempts to prevent the radicalization of youth like Ahmed, we will first understand how it connects to young people at risk, and second, its curriculum. Initially, the prevention program is reliant on an extensive network of people in schools, religious institutions, and the community who inform police of possible radicalization. According to the aforementioned Guardian, early warning signs can include a new and intense interest in religion, high levels of activity on particular websites, sudden changes in clothing and appearance, and the closing down of existing relationships with friends and family. These students are encouraged to meet with a mentor. Spiegel, a Danish publication, explained on February 23, 2015, that many of these mentors are de-radicalized fighters who have been proven innocent of war crimes. These counselors help students talk through their frustrations without pressure to remove themselves from their religion. Second, noting a drive to join ISIS stems from exclusion from Danish society. The previously cited Borgen Project explains, the model's primary aim is to help radicalized youth feel included, whether that be through social events, academic courses, or community activities. The Washington Post on October 19, 2014 shared the story of Tala, who, after a counseling session, was set up with the math classes he needed to enter engineering school, giving him a purpose. It sounds like a simple idea, but in Tala's case, when the very community he thought was against him offered him help and a path to success, it changed his mindset. By creating mutual trust between the citizens and the city itself, our house has led to dramatic reductions in the number of people going abroad to fight. At first, Ahmed was very unsure of his mentor, Mahmoud, suspecting he was a traitor, bugged to get more info for local police. However, the relationship has since progressed into friendship and respect. Next, we will examine the rehabilitation process by looking at recruitment and its treatment of religion. Initially, the rehabilitation program recruits former fighters through local religious cooperation. As noted by the aforementioned BBC, the local mosque, Grimhaj, had been accused of encouraging encouraging men to go abroad and fight. So that's where city officials sought out those in need. The mosque has since been cooperative in connecting officials with participants and hopes to give them opportunities to reintegrate and educate former fighters. Additionally, Newsweek on October 17, 2014, credits the return of many former fighters to social media and Skype, where the message is being shared that anyone who comes home will be helped with reintegration, access to jobs, and living arrangements. Though many are hesitant to return after completing dangerous acts abroad, officials say no returning fighters in Denmark have been jailed, even further boosting recruitment. Second, the model specifically does not work to fight the ideology of Islam, but rather explains the belief is accepted, but violence is not. CBC News on June 26, 2015 asserts, "Our house is unique in that it deals with radicals in a radical way. Our house treats radicalization similar to an addiction by rehabilitating people, just as a sponsor or mentor would meet with an addict. In Ahmed's case, meeting with Mahmoud, a non-radical Muslim, helped him understand the full ramifications of fighting in Pakistan. The aforementioned Spiegel shares a former fighter. Abdullah, after completing the program, no longer seeks to fight abroad, claiming he can serve his God right where he is in Denmark." Ahmed recalled Mahmoud's words to the aforementioned BBC. "You can still be a Muslim and have a prosperous future in Denmark." The potential of a promising future furthered Ahmed on his road to success. After examining the two components of the model, we can now draw two implications: medical framing and cooperation with radicals. Initially, there are concerns that our house takes a public health perspective and rehabilitation process to deal with what is a fundamentally political problem. Adesara Ortega, a professor of psychology, explained to the Democracy Chronicles of October 26, 2015, that medicalizing political problems like terrorism can function as social control. While the model has had great success in increasing the amount of former fighters returning to the Netherlands, the process of medicalization, or viewing ISIS as a public health concern, could delegitimize political concerns of terrorism. Specifically, it could make prosecuting recruits, such as those behind the Paris attacks, much more difficult, as they could be considered ill rather than criminal. Second, we tend to reject radicals on the notion they can't be changed or are crazy, deranged, and depraved. Consequently, international governments have been opposed to working with all but moderate Muslims, according to Al Jazeera on January 19, 2016. The Our House model, however, differs, as it recognizes a need to actively work with religious fundamentalists to undermine radicalization. Newsweek on January 15, 2015 explains, "It was only when the Grim Hajj Mosque was offered a role in working with the city that they stopped promoting radical politics. This has proven successful through monthly meetings of discussion, debate, and exchange, rather than isolation and radical politics. Thus, we should foster two-way engagement with all parties, not just moderates, in hopes to use engagement to produce positive outcomes." After examining the prevention and rehabilitation components of the Our House model and drawing implications, we see this Danish program could be instrumental in ending the travel of international people to join ISIS. Today, Ahmed is married, continuing his education, and hopes to mentor young people like himself. Our House has shown us the path to peace may not come through harsh words and segregation, but through integration and rehabilitation.